Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Anything But Hold'em. I am here playing on Full Tilt Poker today, playing a little bit of Irish and a little bit of Stud High Low in a few minutes here. Wow, looks like my webcam is freaking out a bit with the new lighting I've got. Let's see if it stabilizes here at some point. I don't know if it's going to look this bad on the. I think it's going to look as bad on the broadcast as it does now. Got a pair of aces here on a pretty decent board for aces, I think. So I'm going to throw a 50% pot bet in here. We're going to throw away our jack and our nine, obviously, and keep the two aces. Is I think what we're going to do. That seems to almost be stabilizing, maybe. Let's see here. No, it still seems pretty unhappy with that. So we're going to discard this. I'll deal with that in a second here. Well, there we go. That seems to have stabilized out a bit. We'll just leave it at that. That's looking pretty good. I'm still fairly happy with my aces here. I'm going to check behind on the. I'm going to check here on the turn and just see what the other folks decide to do. 150 from Bousey. I think I'm calling behind here pretty much all the time. I think probably check call is going to be my line here most of the time as well. I think the aces are going to be the best hand most of the time. I suppose there's going to be a queen 10 out there every once in a while, even a 10-7 every once in a while as well. Pot size bet is pretty chunky. I think that there's a lot of ways that can be other than a straight, or two pair, and I think I've got a lot of those hands beat. I think I'm calling here. It's probably a pretty weak call, but yeah, 7-10. Well, that's a bit distressing, but I should have expected that. It's okay. We will get those back. So this is the a little Irish tournament, $3.30 on Full Tilt Poker. Starts at 1:45 p.m. my time, which was about 20 minutes ago. I was up before that last hand with aces, which of course I should have realized with the pot size bet at the end is probably not going to be. But I mean, that's either going to be air or not. I mean, there's a flush draw from the flop that bricked out. So I mean, I don't know. I think that's going to play that way pretty well. Flopping the straight draw there, or the straight flush draw, obviously, it's the way it's going to go sometimes with these hands. Clearly not making the best of decisions so far in this game today, but we will correct that as the day goes on, I'm sure. Got a stud high-low tournament starting also on tilt here in about 10 minutes time, I believe. 2:15 my time is when it starts, so we'll be throwing that up on the stream beside us as well. Yes, that is going to be starting in 8 minutes time, so be throwing that up on the stream. Get a call behind here with the pair of sixes and the ace 10. Don't have any flushes going on here. We're just going to see how the flop goes and decide from there. It's one of the nice things about Irish. You've got a lot of post-flop possibilities, so it's really not a pre-flop game. You're not going to see typically you're not going to see a lot of crazy pre-flop action. But that's exactly what we're seeing to a certain extent on this hand. We've had a bunch of limpers. We've had a 2.5x raise roughly, and then we've had a 3-bet to a 360, which is a pretty chunky 3-bet actually when you think about it. But there's a crap load of dead money in the pot, and I've got odds like crazy at this point, so I really don't think I can afford to do anything but call behind here. I could have shoved there, I guess, but it's not something that's going to get folds very often in that situation, I don't think, in an Irish game, because as I said, it's a post-flop game, so people are going to want to see, if they're in with this much of their stack already, they're going to want to see the flops. That's the whole point of this. I don't think I've flopped enough on this to continue. I think I needed to see two Broadway cards at least, or a six, to really, an ace was obviously going to be fairly friendly to me here as well. But I mean, without seeing some of those, I'm probably not going to be interested in this pot very often on the flop. Who knows? Might be a quick day for me here on the Irish table. 7, 9, 10 queen with two clubs certainly has some possibilities, and I think I want to see a flop if I can with this. I probably have to fold my limp out if this gets re-raised. So we hit a pair of tens, and we've got a jack or an no, just the jack for a straight. So gut shot straight draw. Um, and actually, we have one or the other of those once we decide what we're going to discard. So we're keeping the 10 clearly. I think the queen 10 is the. Oh, that was actually that was really poorly done. See, in Irish, you're supposed to select the cards you discard, not the cards you're keeping. So I just discarded the cards I was trying to keep. But that's the way it goes. Uh, I'm clearly not making the best decisions in this game. Maybe jumping into this one was not the best idea in the world. Ooh, house over house. Don't see that very often. I don't think there's enough on that to really be jumping into, frankly. Got 6 people registered in the stud high-low. Starts in 3 minutes time. So we're going to have another table up on the screen at that point. That wouldn't have been a particularly good flop for our hand, I don't think. Would have hit a pair of 8s, but that's about it. Although we do have the nut blocker for spades. And actually, the nut spade, or the nut draw now, I have to remember this isn't actually Omaha, so you're actually going to be playing, you can potentially play that ace as a nut spade. So Again, we folded out what would have been a pot-winning hand. Potentially take some money as well on there. So I think that you're going to get people calling, thinking that the board is what's going to get played. Wow, the 3-4 is actually playing the board. He actually tied with everybody else. Nobody else had a spade. That's hilarious. That's pretty hilarious in a sad sort of way, given that we were not in the pot and should have been. So we got about half a stack at this point now. 1585 started with 3,000 chips. It's not obviously the best situation to be in, but equally I think that proven on this stream multiple times, including yesterday in the triple stud, that chipping a chair is absolutely the truth, and you can really come back and win the tournament or go deep in a tournament from any stack size, as long as you still have a stack and are still getting the cards dealt to you, which is the case with us. We are still getting cards dealt to us, so that's awesome. I think this is probably going to be a call. 4, 5, 7, 8. There's just crap loads of straights going on in there. The 5, 8 hearts obviously is a potential straight flush draw. So yeah, I mean, I think we're definitely closing the betting off to see a flop with 150 here in quite a nice bit of pot odds. So 7, 8, 9 Jack would give us a gut shot straight draw. We don't really have much else happening given that. So we're probably going to fold the 4, 5. Makes the most sense, I think. So the stud high lows just started. I will get that up on the screen here in just 1 second. The question is, am I going to call with? No, I don't even think I'm going to see the. I don't even think I'm going to discard and see the turn on this case. It's just not a strong enough hand. Didn't flop hard enough into that. Alrighty, so let's. Little stud high low. Put that one in. Let's flip him on, a little stud high low. Let's shrink this guy a bit. So we got 10-10 king on the stud high low. I think we're gonna call and see what happens there. Pair of tens, ace king high, 2 hearts, 2 spades. So there's not much for flushy stuff happening for us. That 6 doesn't really do much for anything in our hand. We know we're not getting a low, although we could potentially fake a low at this point, but I think that's dangerous given the other cards that are out there. I think with our 2 pair, it's probably going to be a check call most of the time here. It is utterly shocking that I took the entirety of that pot. I had no business. I had no business winning. There should have been a low. One of those guys should have had a low. That's shocking that I took that whole pot. I should not have taken that whole pot. Hello, Burko. Hello, hello, hello. Well, good to see you. Glad you're here. Checking out the Irish. We got stud high low going on the other side as well. Um, yeah, it's similar. There's a couple of main differences from Omaha. Of course, the biggest one is that you don't need to use two cards from your hand and three from the board. You can use any combination of those, like Hold'em. There's no rules about cards from the board and cards from your hand being used. You can use any combination of those. Um, and of course, you're also discarding two cards after the flop betting round. So at the end of the day, you're only playing two cards when it comes to the showdown on the river. So yes, you're looking for Omaha hands, but you're not looking for the sorts of hands that play a bunch of different ways. The 4, 5, 6, 7 hands are not necessarily the best sorts of hands to play in this because, let's say you've got 4, 5, 6, 7 and you flop 6, 7. Well, what are you doing there? Are you keeping the 6 and the 7 for two pair, or are you keeping the 4 and the 5 for your open-ended straight draw? Now, clearly, the third card on the flop is gonna determine part of how you make that call. But those are not necessarily the best kind of hands to play where they'd be an awesome kind of Omaha thing. But on the other hand, things like double paired hands are always gonna be good, stuff like that, and the things that can flop into straights and flushes are always going to be really good too. So yeah, I mean this sort of a hand, ace nine, queen, deuce, I'm going to be playing that a fair bit on this. Now, it's fairly common that there's not a ton of post-flop super action or pre-flop super action in this game because it really is a post-flop game. You really want to see what comes down on the flop before you make any huge decisions about putting chips in the pot. Um, and in this case, I flopped top pair with top kicker. So I'm pretty happy. There's going to be people playing clubs, almost certainly. I'm going to put a half pot bet in here, and we're going to go from there. We're going to be folding our deuce and our nine, keep the ace queen, um, and that's going to give us top pair, top kicker. Now, I'm thinking that it's certainly possible that there's going to be 5 4s in there. I wouldn't expect a ton of queen fives. But there's going to be 5 4s, I think, potentially out there for sure, and there's going to be club draws out there for sure. There's going to be people with two clubs in their hand that are now throwing away their other cards and keeping two clubs. So yeah, I mean, I think that those are definitely hands that have got me beat at this point. That said, any of the two pair hands I'm actually drawing live against when I hit an ace, so I've got outs against any of the two pair hands. So I think I'm going to check and take a free river here. This is going to be a bring in, and we could be playing this hand. I like the low end. So I think we're going to check and take a free river here. Don't really think that there's any huge reason. So the 5 4s just hit a boat. Now it was ahead of me anyways, and I'm not really putting the 5 4 out there a huge amount. Just because of, and actually, I'm going to pot this. I'm actually going to max this out since our stack is basically a pot bet. I've got the low end here, so I'm doing pretty well, I think, on my low draw. And yeah, I'm definitely playing a good low here. Um, Nice to see folds there. Clearly, nobody had the 5 4 because that's obviously not folding. I'm throwing a bet in here just because I think that I've got the best. Well, I know I've got the best low draw, and I think I'm going to win out on low quite a bit. Especially now with the 64 is definitely going to be it's the nut six. The only one that's drawing better that potentially can draw out on me is Trigger, but I even think Trigger's probably unlikely to be even drawing to beat me. Basically, what it means is that Trigger has to have a 6-3 back as well to be drawing to beat me. Right, so I think I'm just going to give up my limp on this occasion. There's definitely possibilities with this hand. We could have ended up with the bottom end of a open-ended straight draw. It's not going to be a terrible place to be, but not the strongest place in the world either. So a pair of fives with three hearts. The three hearts is never going to be a great situation in games like this, just because it means that there's one less heart that can come out of the flop to help you. And you do have to get rid of one of these hearts. You can't keep all three of them through the whole hand. So not the best situation in the world, perhaps, but I still, with the 5-4 and the pair of fives, I'm pretty happy with the hand up until Baldnap shoves for 12 big blinds. Um, it's rather yeah, I can't really call this here. That's rather unfortunate. I have to give up that limp again. Ready, we might have to be reconsidering our limping strategy at this point. Usually limping is relatively common uh, in Irish, being that such a post-flop game, but it would have been interesting that we could have ended up with the 10. Yes, and the full house with the kings, and we would not have had the flush anyways, so. I'm going to get out of the way on this one. I don't think this is nearly even as strong as the last hand, so I think just getting out of the way is the way to go there. Three-eight-seven is going to play pretty well in a high-low game a lot, especially with the deuce on 4th Street. We're going to be in a strong position for the bottom half of the pot here a lot of the time. We're going to be taking half the pot here almost all the time. I think Poker Griffin may take it away from us some of the time, but I think we're going to be taking it most of the time still. The fact that he's folding there, that's rather interesting. Yeah, that's rather interesting. Clearly everything bricked for him. But it's interesting because if the low is bricking, well, I suppose it's possible for the low to brick out with kings and queens that don't pair. But typically when your low bricks out, you're going to have paired something along the way. And if you've paired something along the way, you're going to want to at least see how your pair stacks up a lot of the time. So I'm a little surprised at the fold there, but that's okay. Everybody has their own strategy. Pair of queens with a 5. Obviously, our low draw possibilities are pretty weak at this stage of the game. But I still think I'm going to be involved. We get to close the betting as well, which is always a bonus at this stage. It means that you can basically see a free free street. It's a good street actually. There's some arguments to betting this. I think I'm going to check, but there's certainly arguments to betting here. We look like we're developing an awesome low that's combined with potentially a heart flush draw. So we're going to actually take it down a lot when we bet there. I'm going to throw a bet out here. It's obvious that we've just kind of Fifth Street into a monster here. But they don't know that because they don't see my buried queens. And so we're getting raised. Now, John M. is almost certainly playing a low hand here. He knows, well, he doesn't know, but he thinks that I'm not necessarily playing out to the best low hand at this point in time, even with the ace-5 up there. But I'm pretty confident on my high hand at the moment. Am I confident enough to raise this and get... I don't think so. I think I want to see one more card at least before I decide to do this. Now, one of the problems over here is that John is um, really potentially on a straight draw here. So I'm actually going to slow down a little bit. Um, and just call now at this stage, because the three queens, as strong as they are actually behind. We're not behind anymore, though, because we just rivered 7th Street, the full house, which is going to be a nice spot most of the time. That's a playable hand on the Irish, actually. I was paying too much attention to the stud high-low. Probably should be playing that one, frankly. Definitely going to put money in here. So John's raising me, so we're going to raise him and split the pots. Pretty reasonable way for that to work out, I think. Miss Gilly, good to see you. Good to see you, girl. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Always nice to see you in the chat room, Miss Gilly. Oh, the 4-5-9 with the 2 spades. Definitely an attractive hand. I think if the 9 was 8 or below, I'd probably be more inclined to play that hand. The H368 rainbow on the Irish table makes me wish like hell we were playing Badoogie, because that's a pretty darn nice looking natural Badoogie hand. However, we are not playing Badoogie, we're playing Irish, in which case this is a fold most of the time, I think. So just one of those cases. If we're playing Omaha, it's probably a fold too. But on a Badoogie, you're playing that Badoogie hand. Absolutely, folks. Yeah. So it's important to remember what game you're playing when you get dealt cards, because sometimes good cards in one game are kind of nasty looking cards in other games. Deuce 4 with 2 hearts. This is definitely a fairly nice looking stud high-low starting hand. And I think we're definitely calling through to see 4th Street for sure. Probably 5th Street as well, but that's yet to be determined. So we're developing a bit of a heart thing happening here. Only 3 of them though, so it's not really worth talking about quite yet. But it's definitely out there in the future ether potential. Is it out there often enough for me to be calling 40 at this stage? Obviously, the pot odds are massive, but the pot odds are always massive in a limit game at this stage. So we shouldn't really let that necessarily sway us, or else we're calling everything. So I think we're going to get rid of that hand at this point and keep going, because we're really bricking out in our low draws here, and we need 2 out of 3 remaining cards to be hearts for us to hit a decent high hand. So I think it's probably going to be a pretty narrow draw in that stage, and even with the sort of 9-1 pot odds that we were getting there, it's not really going to pay off often enough for us to do that. Pair of threes with an 8 and a 4-5. I'm going to be playing this one over here, I think, for sure on the Irish table. I think I'm going to fold out on the stud high-low table. So just a reminder of the rules of Irish. Of course, you get dealt 4 cards pre-flop. You do your flop, your pre-flop betting round. The flop gets dealt out. You do your flop betting round, and then you are instructed to discard 2 cards, and you play the turn in the river with your remaining 2 cards. It's rather annoying that that happened. We would have flopped 2 pair. Not a great 2 pair on a board like that because there's going to be hearts out there quite a bit. Aces versus kings, and the kings take it. No, everybody splits with hearts. It's the second time we've seen an all suit board here in this Irish. Interestingly, folding both tables here. There's diamonds out the last time, all diamonds. So that's kind of interesting. So the sorts of hands that you're looking for to start off with in Irish are hands that have 2 card combos. That have 2 card combos that can hit the flop. See, this is actually a really pretty Irish hand, and I'll explain. I'm actually going to do my, I've been calling all of these and limping and folding when people have shoved, so I'm hoping somebody's going to shove here because this is a call. The reason that this one is such a strong Irish hand is because we've got a pair of threes that we can hit a set with. We got a pair of fives that we can hit a set with, which we just did. But we've also got 3-5 that we can hit straight draws with. The only thing wrong with this particular flop is that we hit is that there are 3 diamonds on it, and we don't have. When we throw away our 2 threes, we're not gonna have any diamonds left to play with. But nonetheless, I think that keeping the set is the way to go here. Any paired card gives us a nut flush, or sorry, gives us a boat, which kills any flushes that come out. Get a check behind here, see what Bouncy does. Bouncy pot bets. It's possible that there's a straight flush out there. Obviously, ace 3 and 3-6 are straight flushes at this point. My jacks are obviously bad against this ace. These aces, I should go. But I still think I'm going to see for that reason, because I have 4 cards that I can hit to hit my full house. Binkage! So that gives us a nice little spot in the game, and we're going to fold here because we have to basically pair something else or hit another jack to be ahead of the aces here. And our low was non-existent. Deuce 3, 7 queen. I think I get rid of that. It's not really enough either way. I mean, obviously the deuce 3 can hit straights. The 7-3 has heart possibilities, but none of that's really going to be all that great post flop most of the time. 8-9 jack with the 2 diamonds. I think I'm going to close the betting and see another street. Another diamond, including something that is working on our straight draws, so we're definitely going to see 5th street here at least. So that doesn't really work into our straight draw. Trigger is definitely representing a flush here, a made flush, or potentially a straight with a flush draw is the other way that he's representing us. Could actually be a straight flush as well. So I think actually getting out of the way at this point is probably going to be best. We're drawing pretty thin to our flush at that point, and we're drawing pretty thin to our straights as well. And trigger's definitely representing a made flush or a made straight at this point. Three, 6, 8, 9, 2. I think we probably get out of the way on this one. Although I think with the odds, I need to call actually. Now that I'm seeing it, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I'm probably not going to take the pair of sixes. I'm probably going to run the flush. Or, I mean, run the straight, 6, 7, 8, 9. Bonsi is disconnected. There's our straight. Binkage. Alrighty, so nearly 8,000 chips. That's going to work out pretty well. Nice to see some folks out in chat. Say hello in the chat window if you're out there. If you're not already a follower, please click the follow button on the bottom. We are looking for the follow love we run on your follows. 667. I think I like that. I'm gonna see a street here. Likewise, I'm gonna limp with the ace, queen, jack, jack. That's underrepresenting my hand a fair bit. So I'm actually a fair bit stronger than that play would indicate, I think. So we hit our set of jacks. We're definitely going to be playing with that, so we're probably going to be folding here. I think we're going to throw out a pot bet as well. It's because on this board, I suppose a 9-10 has already flopped, it's got a made straight, but there's not much I can do about that. And again, I've got the boat draws. And that's another binkage, 93-40. So we get the 7-6-5 ace for low over here, plus the pair of sixes. So I'm still pretty happy with this hand. Clearly triggers ahead of us for the high draw. And there are potentially better lows out there as well. So, I mean, we're not thrilled with this. The 8-7-6-5, not going to be the best low draw in the world. Jack 7-5-3. I think we're folding that out most of the time. I think at this stage, probably just check. Calling is the best bet. I think we're going to win the low end of this pot a reasonable amount of the time. Not all the time, obviously, because clearly uh, Garrikus and John both have solid lows that could take us, which John does. So deuce 3-6. That's going to be a playable hand for low as well. We got the two diamonds that could back us into a flush as well, which is always the sort of thing you're looking for in a high-low game. Play for a strong low that could potentially back into a good high. I think we're definitely seeing Fifth Street on the stud table, no question about that. And absolutely now we've got four cards to a low, we've got four diamonds to a flush, so we're pretty happy. The three diamonds on board also look very strong because nobody knows that we don't have two diamonds back and don't already have a made flush. I think that bets take this down fairly often. Because nobody else is really Trigger's the only other one, and possibly Vitali with lows that they really want to put chips in on. Definitely want to see a limp with the two suits over here. Definitely want to see a flop and see what happens. So that's our both our low and our flush coming in. So we're definitely putting money in the pot now. We don't necessarily have the best low because Vitali could definitely be on a 7 to our 8. And we don't even necessarily have the best high because Trigger could easily be playing a full house at the moment. We now see 3 5s up top, which definitely could be. And even though we're not far from a straight flush, we don't quite have a straight flush. All we have is a regular old-fashioned flush. So given that, I still think putting a bet in is the way to go. But for on this table, I think we're keeping the 8 for sure. As a pair, and probably keep the ace 8, so let's discard the deuce 3. We took both ends of that pot, surprisingly, which really was not something I expected to do. I expected to split that with somebody. But I'm cool with that. You know, if you want to give me all the chips, I'm cool with you giving me all the chips. So the flush came in over here on the Irish board, and it's almost certain that one of these four players had a couple of clubs in their hand and decided to play them after the two clubs come out on the flop, even with the paired board. So I really think at this stage my hand is worthless, and the fold button is the only thing that I can really click here. And the fold button over here is what I'm going to click to, because really 3-10 king, even with the two clubs, just not really going to be worth your time in a high-low context. Ace 399 on the Irish table. That's a pretty nice looking Irish hand, I think. We're definitely going to want to see a flop with that. However, with the action in front of us, that does make our decision a little bit more complicated. We do have a massive chip stack advantage over everybody else, which means we can push people around a little bit. We do have Depsham behind us, which kind of worries me a little bit. Yeah, I don't really think this is strong enough to make a huge move on. If the ace was a heart, or there was another diamond to match the ace, I might be more interested. But this is just yeah. I'm really looking for a 9 to flop to make me happy on this hand, and that's not going to happen all that often. So I really think that getting out of the way is maybe the best option there. Two jack, 6, even with the two spades and the two low cards. I think they're just none of it's strong enough to really be that interested in at this stage, really. Both of these tournaments are still in the late registration phase. I am sitting second in chips in the Irish tournament at the moment, And in the stud high-low, I am sitting first in chips at the moment, so that's the way it goes. Ace, King, Jack, 4 with 2 suits is definitely one of those hands that I kind of want to play with. So I think we're actually going to throw a raise in pre-flop with this and just see how people respond to our raises. So we haven't done much of that yet today. Been mostly doing the limpy thing today. So let's throw in a raise and see what happens. Get a lot of calling, so it's a pretty big pot at this stage. So Boris is shoving. This is probably a super nitty fold, but I think I'm just going to get out of the way here and see what the rest of the table wants to do. I think clearly punish is in, so we're going to see what these guys are doing this on, and I'm kind of curious to see what Boris has done this with. Um, so deuce 3-8 with 2 diamonds, definitely going to get involved over here. Right, so this was not really a great flop for us. The ace-4 is probably what we'd end up playing with the deuce-3 and hope for a non-heart 5, but, you know, that's a pretty narrow draw at that stage. So Boris with the aces, that's a perfectly reasonable place to do that with, I guess. Although I think in Irish, I think, you know, even the aces pre-flop, you really don't have a hand until you see what's happening on the flop. With so many people, I folded that there just because I don't think I was working well on either end, frankly. So I think the ace-king and the ace-3 are both nice straight flush draws there, so that's why I'm involved in this now. Um, bah. Pair of jacks with a 3 on the stud high-low. That's definitely something that we could consider playing. Obviously, our low is not that great. And actually, on second thought, I think that because the jacks cannot play for low, and we basically got to run 4 cards to a low, which means we're not going to improve on our jacks. Not a good hand either direction, frankly, to work with. So we're going to check, see a flop here. So deuce 3, 4. Haven't really, frankly, hit anything worth talking about on the flop. So fold is going to be the most profitable move on this hand, I think. Four, six, seven. Definitely want to see some cards with that hand in a high-low scenario. Not going to get involved with the deuce 4-9 queen on the Irish table, I don't think. Hitting a pair of sevens. Not going to be terribly unhappy with that on the stud high-low. So that's playing into my low. Well, obviously Trigger is definitely working on a potentially better low than I have. probably should be actually putting. I probably should have put a bet in there instead of checking. Frankly, now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, it's hard to say. Geez, if we were playing Badoogie again, I'd be all over this hand. It's only a 3 card, but still, it's a darn fine 3 card Badoogie. Um, it's probably something that I wouldn't mind seeing a flop with on this either. So we'll see. Roger that. So that's just given me. So I've got 4 cards to a low, plus I've got a straight flush or an up and down straight draw. So I think we're definitely interested in this hand. The pair of sevens isn't obviously the best hand with Garricus's eights there, but God, every time I limp in, people are coming over the top of me. That's very annoying because this is normally a game where people do a lot of limping, but oh well, that's life. So I would have flopped top pair, top kicker. Still not terribly thrilled with that. You got to think that aces and kings are going to be out there a fair bit with the pre-flop action. Kings and jacks like that. Yeah. Yeah. So Don Cow is out. Aussie Daddy has now got a big stack. So we just hit 2 pair. Bricked our low. Nobody else has got a low though, so it's only the highs that are being played. Yeah, that's a pretty reasonable way for that to play out. So the pair of threes is certainly one possibility. Uh, yeah, I'm not really liking that queen. It's not helping my hand in any way, so. Pair of threes. It's not really going to win this too often, I don't think. Certainly not anymore. I might have won with a bet on the turn, but I don't think I'm going to on this table very often. Um, and I'm just giving up really at this stage. I don't think it's. All right, so we're on break. I'm going to take a quick break and zip off camera, zip off mic, and I will be back. Alrighty, so I am back. Hello. Takes a few minutes for that webcam to kind of sort out the lighting situation I got going on here, but works it out eventually. We're back. Let's take off the break sign. Notice I did some updating on my totals for the month. I mentioned this yesterday that I've been doing some thinking about how I'm going to structure the episodes as we go this year, and I'm going to do it by calendar, so by calendar month. I'll be cutting. This will be the final episode of season 2, which is January of 2015, and we'll start a season 3 February 2015 coming up. And the way I'm going to do the bankrolls is whatever profit we have at the end of this month gets rolled over into next season as the starting bankroll for next month's episodes. And we'll just continue that through the year and see where we end up as we move on. So right now, as you can see on my little progress bar there, we've had $424.83 in total buy-ins this month. $1,022.02 won. That is, of course, not counting whatever we win in these two tournaments that we're currently playing today. Likewise, with the total profit of $597.19 and 140%, 140.57% ROI, which is just stunningly, absurdly high, frankly. I don't think there's no way that can sustain through the long term of this. It's just that hitting that first daily for $500 at the beginning just really whacks your numbers out, which is in a good way, obviously, whacks them out, but nonetheless it definitely whacks your numbers a little bit. So yeah, I'm very happy with the month. I mean, I don't know how I could say that I'm anything but thrilled with the progress of the month. I mean, having over $1,000 in total winnings, guaranteed. We have total profit of nearly $600 guaranteed, and the worst case, that's the worst case scenario, and best case scenario is that we could be 650, 675 at the end of this if we win both of these. Haven't looked at the actual totals yet, but so I'm definitely involved in this. We're drawing an awesome low hand and a potentially awesome high hand as well. These kings, I can't really do anything other than play this super aggressive. And I'm calling a reshove by Boris here pretty much all day, every day, all year long kind of thing. Because the kings are just too strong with the ace, king, jack, diamonds, just too strong to give up. This is definitely one that we could see some cards with. The two suits are going to be nice. The ace-10 jack gives lots of Broadway possibilities as well. So there are lots of ways to go. I don't think that with all this action we're getting involved, frankly. Although the odds are certainly looking good for us to get involved, but we can easily just fold, still have 7,500 chips roughly, and be in a good spot in the tournament still. So I don't think that we're strong enough to really value our hand that much, frankly. So the spades, but the spade is not actually the draw that we really wanted to hit. It would have been the clubs that we would have really wanted to be hitting, frankly, because that's our nut draw. And the king takes it. Kings take it. Again, the pair of sixes is going to be strong. Lots of straighty possibilities. We got the clubs working for us as well, potentially here. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a fairly strong hand most of the time. So registration is closed on the Irish. Definitely playing this on the stud high-low table, and in fact, we're going to play it for a raise on there. Well, there's limp folding, limp folding, limp folding, but it's going to happen over there. So on the Irish, we're sitting in sixth place right now with 5 places paying. 33.60 up top for first place, and $7.56 is a fifth place min cash at the moment. On the stud high low tournament, I think registration is still open on that. Yes, registration is still open for a while on the stud high low, another half hour or so at least. But currently there are 16 people in that. 3 places being paid, $24 up top, $14.40 for second, and $9.60 for third. The Jack of Hearts does not really play very well into what we've been working on, but I still think I want to see Fifth Street. The Five of Clubs plays even worse into what we're working on. It does give us a pair, but it's a bad pair, and it's a pair that's clearly beaten by Garricus's pair of jacks that are showing to us. Oh, Boris has raised us 3 and a bit X. Do I want to play this? I certainly could defend this, but I think I'm going to fold out at this stage and just let it go. And I think I'm folding a pair of 5s too. I really wanted that to work into my low. That's really going to be a crappy hand most of the time from that stage on. I am third currently in the stud high-low for the record. And I think that's a fold in the Irish most of the time. Pair of aces with the 10. I think we're going to come in for completion on here. With this being the last episode of Season 2, I'll also be ending the season at 54 tournaments. Of course, not all of those were played on stream. I played some satellites to bigger events while I was off stream that I recorded in my stats as well, because they were directed at the stream. And they were using what I'm considering a stream bankroll to buy into them. So yeah, 54 total tournaments. Not a huge sample size, I don't think, but certainly I think enough, enough to make it a good tournament. So pair of aces. It's not always going to be a winner here, but it's going to be a winner a fair amount of the time, I think. And not today. That's cool. That's cool. 379. Not really going to be the strongest high-low hand at any point in the day, so we'll back that off a bit. Deuce 7-8 queen with 7-8 diamonds. I think I'm going to fold that. So we've hit the final table now, the Irish. As I said, 5 people are getting paid out of the 8 remaining. 9 remaining, sorry. So 4 people will leave this final table without money, and 5 will get paid. I'm currently sitting in 7th chip position, so not in the greatest of spots, and I think I probably need to be open shoving a reasonable amount at this point. I can't be limping anymore. I'm trying to think. This might be a hand in later position to open shove. It's kind of a hijack spot here. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's possible. I think with Illich opening up, I think I'm just getting rid of the hand. So Queen 4 deuce over here. The Queen's going to be a throwaway card all the time here. Um, we're really not looking to do anything with the Queen because anything that happens with the Queen is just crippling our low hand possibilities and our spade. Well, not necessarily our spades, but it's not doing good things for our lows. Um, so I am sort of considering this to be a two-card hand that I'm in the end only going to be working with 6 because I'm just ignoring this Queen. Fold this one on the Irish over here. And I think we're going to see 4th at least at this point. Well, that does give us the spade possibilities, and we do still have potentially, if we go runner, 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 we can get a low with a pair of queens. But I think that betting here and hoping to push some people off the pots is going to be my best option at this stage. I think seeing the pair of aces with Bane is a bit disturbing for me. So I think probably checking behind is the way to go here. So I brick the low, and I basically need to hit a queen to maybe win. So we had a bust out over in the, so that's getting out of the way there. We got a bust out over in the Irish table, so there's 8 left now. I am sitting in 6th position. Dip Shaman. And I think this is a shove spot for me. I mean, I obviously can wait for the 2 lower stacks to do things, but it doesn't really get me anywhere because I'm still out of the ITM range. So I need to double my stack. I need to get some chips to make something happen over on the Irish table before, so I can get into the money. I think the pair of kings I'm playing back against everything. I'm going to fold a pair of 7s over here. Normally I would get involved with a pair, but it's just really going to be a poor low, and it's looking like Conger's already working on something worthwhile. I think we're absolutely calling here. I can't really do anything else. I'm obviously going to tank for a little bit and think about it to be sure. The king is going to be ahead of what's up. I mean, pretty much all the time. There's obviously aces out there some of the time, but what am I going to do about aces, right? I just have to call. I've got kings. So that's really the only choice that I've got. You know, hopefully he doesn't have 2 diamonds in his hand. That's all I can say at this stage. Wow. I should have also said hopefully he doesn't have 2 aces in hand, which he does. All right, so we bust the Irish in 8th place, which means no cash from the Irish, sadly. But that's the way it's going to go sometimes. And, you know, I think that getting it in with the kings there. I can obviously suggest that he's going to have aces there some of the time. But, you know, what am I going to do about it? I got kings. I think that really if I'm folding there, because I think he has aces. I'm just giving up way too much value because he's doing that with queens. He's doing that with jacks, probably with his stack as well. So I mean, I think that was, you know, not much else that I can do really with that. So I think that yeah, it's just the way poker goes. Sometimes it's a brutal, brutal, brutal game. Right. So I'm gonna take this one off the screen, and we will expand this guy that I'm still playing in, which is the stud high-low. Got a better pair of nines there. And we're going to bet our developing low slash straight draw there as well. Hey, so we're back up with just the high-low. Well, that's a pretty crappy 7th Street for us. Bricked our low, and we didn't really develop into our high, but I think our nines, I think Wrestling's going to be betting a low here with no high a reasonable amount of the time, which means I think if we fold, we're going to lose equity on our nines a lot. So I think we have to call. In that case, it was a losing hand, but I think that we still have to call there because I think that given the way that his up cards were showing, he's playing a low there with no high a reasonable amount of the time. So things not going terribly well for us last few minutes, having busted out of the Irish, and now we're low stack in the stud high low. But hey, that's the way poker goes sometimes. So we've got 3 cards to a low. Really nothing happening other than outside straight draws for high. We're checking this all the time, pretty much. Check folding even, I think, is going to be the way to go most of the time with our stack. It's like 3-1 pot odds. Yeah, I think getting out of the way is the answer there. We don't really have enough going on either end to put our chips in with there. Queen 10-7 is a fold hand on a stud high-low game. Got to think that Evie's playing 2-pair. Seems to be no other explanation for that. Four, 5, 10. 4, 5, 10. 4, 5, 10 with 2 clubs. There's lots of clubs out already, so I think the clubs are pretty much dead. I can get out of the way here. My stack is small enough. I've got to be really careful where I get involved. Excuse me for sneezing in your face there. John M hitting two pair with kings and tens, but Bain showing a set of threes. Garricus with a pair of jacks that are looking pretty weak at this point. With John M calling behind, you got to think that he's got either a king or a 10 behind him. With that raise, I mean, you've just got to assume that he's got a king or a 10 on one of his buried cards, because there's just no other explanation for that. Yep, full house, 10s full of kings. King, queen, 3 with spades. Two spades, that is. Is it worth a 30 call to C4 Street? Probably not, because my low is so crappy, I think. So the 330 stud high-low is our final chance to make some money in January on the stream. This will be the final broadcast for the stream for January. I'll be back tomorrow to start the next season/month, February, with a weekly round 2 tournament, which, if I'm not mistaken, was a no limit, deuce 7 single draw. Might have been a fixed limit triple draw. I know it's a deuce 7. I know it's a deuce 7. 348. I think I'm definitely going to be seeing some cards with this. There's really no way to get around that. The queen is not the card I was looking for. And I just don't think I can waste the chips to continue. I'm not unhappy with the original call. Just did not come with the card I was looking for. It's the way poker is going to go. One of the most important skills in poker is knowing when to be sticky and knowing when just to cut your losses and get rid of your cards. You know, I think that's one of the key things. So 1,054 chips. I don't think registration is even closed yet on this one. No, registration is still open for another, looks like 22 minutes or so on this one. I think I want to see some cards here. I know I don't have a low. There's not a lot of other strong lows out there, strong looking lows out there at the moment. So I'm pretty happy with the way my high is looking, and I think putting money in the pot is the way to go. And I think continuing to put money in the pot is the way to go. Do I want to keep putting money in the pot at this point? I think so. Happy to take that down there. I'm fairly happy, I think, if he calls as well. I think I've got the best hand there most of the time. I really don't want him getting a draw at 7th Street for free, though. So, pair of 8s with 2 clubs, I think, is going to be worth some chips, at least to see 4th Street, see how things go. Garricus completes with the 7 of clubs showing. Well, there is a blocker for our 8s out there already. That's a little disturbing. Didn't notice that before. I should have been paying more attention to that pre-flop. In fact, there's 2 blockers for our 8s out there, which is not exactly what we wanted to see, really. That said, we know that Evie is not playing a set of 8s. That would be a violation of the rules. I'm done, I think. I just can't see how my hand is ahead of Evie at this stage with only the queen kicker and the 5. Um, Folding that one. I haven't played this particular tournament very often. Even when I've been over playing on Full Tilt, for some reason this is one that I haven't really played very much. I play the Raz quite a bit, both the one that's in the morning and also the one in the later evening sometimes. Um, and I've played the Irish one before, but it's been a long time since I played this, if I ever have played this particular stud high-low before. Um, but it's fun. I like it, and it's you know, as any regular viewers of the stream know, I love my stud high low, so it's nice to get some hands in. In eighth or seventh, eighth I think it was in the Irish Burko. Either way, it was just out of the money, 5 paid, so I made it to the final table, but didn't quite couldn't quite bring it home, unfortunately. So pair fives with a 5-6, I'm gonna be pretty interested in seeing 1 or 2 cards at least with, just to see how things develop. They're developing pretty well when I get the 3 there. My low hand is clearly going to be the best one developing out of all of them, if you ignore the fact that I've only got a 3 card at this point. So I think I can't afford not to see at least one more street here. Um, I could even be raising potentially at this stage, but I don't think I'm going to push any high hands off, like any pairs, big pairs off. Like could be easily a pair of aces here, easily a pair of aces here potentially. So although the fact that there's blockers out there makes all those pairs less likely. The 9 here really degrades my hand quite a bit because I'm really now playing runner runner for a low. I think I got to fold there because I really now have to play runner runner to hit a low, and even and I'm only playing a pair of fives. So the only other better high hands is possibly a straight, but again that's a runner runner for the straight too. This is probably one that I can't get away from. Even though the low is going to be pretty crappy all the time, it's not really one that I can get away from anytime soon. I hate that ace because the way that he played that makes it really likely that he was playing an ace of some kind back there, and he's just paired it. But again, I don't think I can get away from the pair of kings, and especially not now that I've hit a flush draw as well. I just don't think that there's any way I can get away from it. We're all the way in. Nothing else we can do. We're going to split. Folding that. Yeah, so we're really looking for a hand that we can double up on, get all of our chips in, and double up on. That's obviously ideal for us at this point. We're still fairly early in the tournament. Like I said, there's still late reg for another 20 odd minutes at least. So at least up until the next break, there'll be. I think we're playing this one. We got the suited clubs or nutted clubs and the ace deuce for low. I think is going to be a strong playable hand all the time. So three clubs now, and I think checking is going to be my best option pretty much all the time at this stage. Take the free card. Three cards to a low, three cards to clubs. So I need to draw clubs and low cards if I'm going to hit both my hands. So I think we're going to check. We hit neither of those. We do hit a pair of nines, which is behind Evie's pair of jacks, which means it's not really of much value to us at this point. And we're bricking our low, so the hand's really turning out to be pretty much of a crap piece of crap for us at this point. So I think we're just basically giving up and moving on to the next hand. Deuce 7-9 is going to be fold, I think, most of the time. Looks like a flush developing over there for John. Certainly what he's representing. Well, flush and a low, actually. So the Evie's got the flush look too. John was trying to snow us. Not a huge surprise in these games. Gonna have to put my chips in here pretty quick, I think. Definitely need to get some chips. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I don't mean to yawn in your faces. It's just kind of a lazy Saturday afternoon for me here in snowy southern Alberta. Got a bit of a snowstorm last night. Lots of ice and frost and blowing snow, and it's pretty nasty outside right now. So sitting inside playing online poker is definitely the thing to be doing today, I think. It is, I believe, my phone said minus 13 Celsius, actually minus 12, so it's gone up 1 degree since I last looked today, so minus 12 Celsius. But with the wind, that's actually probably making it feel more like minus 20 or so. Not very pleasant to be outside. Not terribly atypical for the end of January in southern Alberta, however. So, you know, we're used to it. We deal with it. And I'm dealing with it by staying inside and playing online poker all day. Pair of tens with a deuce, I think, is something that I'm going to need to see at least one more card with. Um, Clearly, I could be playing the best high hand here a lot. And I think I will be a lot at this point. This is one of these cases where the deuce 3-4, my low hand can't improve without my high hand staying the same, and my high hand can't improve without killing my low hand. So I don't know that I really want to keep playing this at this stage. I'm already in. I may as well put in as much as I can here. Definitely, definitely drawing well. It's that last seventh that's going to matter, and of course we brick on everything with seventh, which is pretty typical way the day's gone. But maybe the pair of tens will win. Yeah, pair of tens takes half the pot. That's cool. That's cool. So still alive with 1551. This is a hand that's getting played aggressively. Putting in the raise with the 3 hearts and 3 cards to a low. Four cards to a low doesn't give me anything on my hearts, but that's the low happening, and I'm pretty happy that that's going to go. With any luck, we'll get 2 hearts on 6th and 7th, or we'll be able to push EV off. And potentially might think that we're playing spades, not hearts. I need to keep betting here on the off chance that I can push EV off. I know that EV's got me for the high pot there. I knew that pretty much from 5th Street on. But I need to keep betting because I can potentially push EV off hands, you know. So I have really no choice but to keep betting there. Betting a pair of aces now. We're going to split this pot almost certainly, but I need to keep betting as well. You know, it's always possible that Garricus will brick out, and we'll just take the we'll just take the pot with our pair of aces, like that. Bankage. 3-6, queen, 10. I don't really think I'm terribly interested in this, although it's getting somewhat more attractive, but I still don't think I can really call, even with the 3 cards too low now. It's just not, I'm still expecting to go runner to do it. This is a hand that's getting played aggressively. Okay, we're getting our stack back, which is nice, up in the 7th position now. And I think that we can do better than that still too. Pair of aces with the clubs. Here, the nut clubs is going to be a really strong high-low hand to start with. Getting even better in the high-low context. The 9's obviously not the friendliest card for me. I'm still ahead of Willow's obvious hand, but I'm clearly not going to be getting a low anymore. But neither is Willow going to be getting a low. So I think that I'm quite happy that my aces are going to be better most of the time. Now, it's quite possible that Willow's playing a set of 9s or is on 2 pair of some kind, but I think the aces are still going to take it most of the time. Yeah, 10s and 9s. Don't really think I could have played that any differently, though. We're folding now. The 10s are beat by Rustlin's Kings, and I need to go runner to hit my low, so that's not going to be very likely. Trigger working on the nut, hearts, and also a very good low at the same time. So only 3 places still being paid in this. There's about 18 minutes of late registration left on this tournament. So people could still come in. Currently 24 total people have registered, 18 people remaining. Uh, 5, 3, 10. No, I don't think there's really enough there to be that interested in this hand. The ace is making it a little bit better. We've got a decent low draw coming out now. And with the 8, that puts us in a pretty good low spot. We're not necessarily drawing better than Trigger and Garricus, but we're going to be better than both of them now, no matter what the draw they had was. Because Trigger, the best he can be playing is an 86 at this point. We've got an 85, so we are ahead there. It's possible that Willow's got our low beat now, but I don't think at this point, now that we've hit a 65, Willow's ever ahead of us for low. Question is whether Willow calls for high or not. That's the real question. And when they fold, that's sort of a best case scenario for us because we knew that we weren't taking. I suppose that ace high is going to win high pot some of the time there, but I don't think we're winning that pot for high very often without that bet. So there you go. There you go. Bit of a stealing half the pot scenario on that one, I think, because I think Willow's going to fold a lot of smaller single pair hands in that case that are going to beat us. Thinking that we must have higher pairs for a high draw. Most people, even in a stud high-low game at these levels, are not thinking that people are betting on their low hands. That's just not the way that most people are thinking about the game at this level. The 9-ace queen, very marginal low possibilities. The two hearts being the queen and the 9 also make the heart draw pretty marginal as well. So it's just one of those hands that's not really worth the chips to get involved with. So it looks like registration will probably run until the break or just after the break, and then we will be closed up here. 8-4-6, I think, is definitely a hand that needs to see some cards in a high-low context. Pair of sixes. It's going to be behind EV's 10s all the time, but it doesn't mean it won't develop into something else as time goes on. With the 9, I am getting far, far, far weaker. Whereas I was on a check call phase last street, this street I'm probably check folding now. 8-6 4 deuce though for low at this point. I think Trigger's really the only one that's got a hand that's potentially ahead of me. Right now. And they just folded, so that makes I'm almost certain that there's clearly Willow could have drawn out to a better low than me. But my two pair, and I don't have a low. I bricked the low, didn't I? Because I just got 8-6 for deuce, but I do have two pair. So I think that my high is going to be good most of the time here. Obviously, I don't have a low though, so wow. Nice hand. Good hand. The ace deuce king is a fairly powerful three-card combination in the high-low as well. It basically is giving you two cards to high hands and two cards to low hands as well, even though you've only got three cards, because of course the ace plays both ways. So it really is a pretty powerful starting point. I wouldn't say it's one of the best starting points for stud high low, because I think that the king has got some serious issues with it unless it's suited to your ace. But there's definitely worse places to start, absolutely, in stud high low. I'm gonna see one more street, I think. Not the street I wanted to see. I don't think my pair fours is going to be ahead. I suppose with all the checks, the pair fours is going to be ahead some of the time. But yeah, I don't think all that often. This is definitely a hand that I'm going to be wanting to show some strength with, I think. Even more so now. Get some money in the pot. I'll take the fold too. I'm not that unhappy with the fold. Three, five, eight is 3 cards to a low, so I think we're definitely going to be calling here. That's a very nice low draw working out. So I think we're going to throw more money in the pot. Make some people pay to play. Thin the crowd out just a little bit. Trigger's definitely competing with us in the low draw category. Eevee's not really. Although I suppose now with the 7, Eevee is. I think I'm going to check and take the free 6th, actually, on this case. I was going to bet again, but I think I'm going to check and take the free 6th. Need to see just to see what I draw. Yeah, that's a crappy draw for me. Got to be folding here. I bricked everything. I bricked everything. This is going to be a fold most of the time. All right, so we just bumped into the final level of late registration. So registration should be closing pretty quick. 28 people total now registered. 4 places being paid now. $36.96 is up top for first place. And Min Cash, fourth place, is $10.08 now. This is a fold most of the time. Alrighty, so we're on break again. I am going to zip off and do my duties, and I will be Alrighty, I am somewhat back. I'm not fully back yet, but I'm somewhat back, and I think that this is one of those hands I've just got to play aggressively, even though it's not the strongest in a high-low context.